And after I nearly ruined her best friend's marriage by telling her husband that his wife had let Charlie use their house to continue the affair, neither of them would even talk about her situation, and damn sure wouldn't pander. The husband let it slip, and the remaining friends were on thin ice when it came to Charlie. A month later, I opened the door and saw Charlie on her knees, begging me to just talk to her. I mowed over about 20 very cruel responses before opening the door wide and walking into the living room. She followed me in a few seconds, looking around warily as if fearing an ambush. "Beer?" I offered. She nodded, and I took the glass and poured her one. She tasted it and examined the glass closely. "What's this?" "It's real Bock, imported. If you don't like it, I have a few other varieties you might be interested in." "Have you turned violent?" I glanced at my watch. There were 3.5 minutes left before she'd managed to piss me off. No, I didn't turn into a lush. I've decided to choose quality over quantity. That and sipping beer rather than consuming it. It usually takes me about 2 weeks to go through a 12-pack. I'm afraid to say it has taken its toll on the girls. If you were to look in my refrigerator, you would see that sodas, root beers, and exotic fruits are the most popular. What about you? Have you started drinking more wine? I knew from the cameras that she drank almost a bottle a night, much more than when we lived together. She blushed, surprising me with her candor. Yes, it helps me get through the lonely nights, but I realized that and started drinking less. Why would you be lonely? A boy in love is officially semi-lonely. Why not go out and play, scratch an itch so to speak? She looked shocked. Doesn't it bother you? No more than when you did it when we were still living together. At least you're legally separated, and he's in the process of getting a divorce, so the embarrassment will be much less. She lowered her eyes in what I hoped was shame. We haven't been together for a long time. I knew Bob had been gone a long time, taking a job in a small county half a state away. His salary was about 2/3 of what he made here, and child support was calculated from his former salary. Paying it every week was very hard. If she wanted to play, one of them would have to drive at least 3 hours. Besides, she said, I know you know a lot more now than you're admitting, so I'm sure you realize he's off the hook. Honestly, just thinking about being with him again makes my stomach churn. If I had the chance to do it all over again, I wouldn't give him the time of day. He wasn't even close to worth what he cost me. He didn't cost you anything, Charlie. You're the one who gained so much money when you threw him in my face and threatened to take everything away from me if I didn't agree to let you continue, she wheezed, the little sobs threatening to turn into big ones. For some reason, this made me angry. Stop it, Charlie. All the tears in the world won't fix the situation. You must have come here for a reason. What do you want? She looked up, a surprisingly determined expression on her face. I want one thing, you. I want you to come back. I want you to snuggle up to me, stroke my ear like you used to, and tell me everything's going to be okay. I want you and the girls to be with me, wrapped up in blankets on this big couch, eating popcorn and laughing about the movie we're watching until they fall asleep, each snuggled up against one of us. I want to feel loved again, not empty and hollow, just marking the days. I know my promises mean nothing to you right now, but I beg you to give me a chance, a fresh start to make amends. That little speech must have knocked her out pretty hard. She sighed, standing up. Think about it for a while. I don't expect an answer right now. Before I go, will you give me a hug, just for a second? Charlie looked lost and miserable, so I hugged her and let her cry on my shoulder for a few minutes. Finally, she pulled away, thanked me, and left. I sat on the couch for another long time until Marissa came in and asked where dinner was. I pointed to the menu posted on the corkboard near the refrigerator. Pick one. She must have called Darcy because she came downstairs, and they had a long discussion about Chinese food, fried chicken, pizza, or hamburgers before settling on a CRE dish. You can call your mom and see if she wants to join us, if you want to, of course. Darcy ran upstairs and returned 10 minutes later, Charlie trailing behind her. They argued until I reminded them that if they didn't call soon, it would be too late. They decided to take it and left, returning with a movie they had rented and asked if we could watch it at the man cave after dinner. I ate my black and blue salad, enjoying the combination of blackened steak and blue cheese crumbles, watching them chatter and taste test all the plates, including mine. Darcy worked up the courage to order the alligator bites, and they turned out pretty good. Once we were full, we went into the building and sat down on the leather couch, seating both kids between us like old times. They chose a novel, and I laughed at it until Darcy poked me in the ribs, telling me to shut up so they could enjoy it. Neither girl saw the ending until the next day because they both fell asleep snuggled up against us. When I looked over, I saw Charlie crying softly, trying not to wake Marissa. We kissed them, and I sent them home to their mother's house, saying I wanted to stay there for a while. Everyone, even Charlie, kissed me good night as they left. I still sat there for a long time, thinking, would I ever be able to trust her again? What would I do if I did, and she turned out to be again? Would my heart be able to take another blow like that? It didn't take long for sleep to set in, and the next morning, they found me still lying on the couch in the men's room. I went to take a shower while they finished the movie. I have to admit, Charlie was really trying. She cooked my favorite meals, didn't complain when I didn't always accept her invitations. The relationship with the girls grew stronger and stronger, especially when school started again, and she took them shopping with her. I always gave Marissa one of my cards, and Charlie wore it out, as was her habit, even buying herself a couple of outfits. I didn't complain because it wasn't at all what she'd spent before. She still had her allowance and one card left, and she was learning to live on the budget. I had allotted her. She surprised us all when she came to me asking for a favor. I've been thinking a lot about my life, Jack. I think I'll take your advice and either get a job or find something worthwhile to volunteer for. If I do, will you watch the girls if I need you? I gave her a big hug and praised her. She had also been going to the gym, and it was already showing. She was getting back into her old soccer mom shape. I always praised her for her progress, even giving her extra money for workout gear and a few new outfits. Charlie took a volunteer job with a major charity organization, helping to prepare events from fun runs to formal balls and dinners. For the first 2 or 3 months, it was mostly daytime events, usually on weekends. Most of the time, one girl or the other went with her, sometimes both. Sometimes I went with her as well, which she seemed to enjoy. As the weather got cooler, they moved to more enclosed areas where the activities were held, mostly at night. I went to some of them with her. It was fun, and I got to socialize with her a bit, but it was taking too much of my energy to do it regularly and still run the company, so I cut my visits down to 1 out of 3. Charlie acted frustrated until I asked her how she would like it if I got up early and dragged her to work, and she still had to go to her job with hardly any sleep on the second day. She usually had breakfast with us, showing pictures of all the beautiful people on her phone. I didn't think much of it, preferring to trust her, as I figured she had learned her lesson. The video cameras were still in place, but I had stopped checking them weeks ago. We were slowly coming back to each other. I had almost come to terms with her act, believing she was truly sorry and knew what would happen if she stumbled again. But pride doesn't precede a fall, smugness does. One day June called me and asked me to bring the kids over for the weekend, myself included if I wanted to. Charlie had a 2-day event, so we kissed her, wished her luck on her project, and even invited her to come to their mansion and spend the night. She declined, saying she'd be too tired to drive the extra 35 miles, told us to have a good time, kissed us goodbye, and waved until we were out of sight. Harry and June met us at the door. "You're just an idiot when it comes to women, Jack. You know that, right? Shaana is furious because she sent you all kinds of signals when the trouble with Charlie started, and you never responded. I know that with your old-fashioned sense of honor, you wouldn't even touch another woman until you were divorced, but she doesn't understand why you didn't just let Charlie go. If I did, I'd be just as bad as Charlie. Besides, I did everything with the children in mind and couldn't afford a hint of scandal if I had full custody. How are you getting along with Charlie? Much better. She doesn't stay at home now. She plays sports, is much more conservative about money, and even volunteers for a major charity organization. I still haven't moved in with her, but we stay overnight sometimes. I have high hopes for the future. Harry sighed, and June didn't make eye contact with me. We need to talk, Jack, after the girls are tucked in for the night. That ruined my mood for the rest of the evening. The girls didn't notice that I was quiet, and after dinner, they rushed off to watch a movie in their 32-person media room. We went into the bar, a room furnished like a Western-style saloon. He brought us each a couple of beers and June a glass of wine, which he favored. I tasted it, expecting something exceptional for $600 a bottle, but in my opinion, it tasted the same as the $20 stuff. We sat sipping it. I knew it was best not to rush them. They would get to what they wanted to say in their own time. Finally, June began. You do know that we contribute heavily to several charitable organizations, right? Especially since most of it we can write off. We'd rather give money to an organization that can really improve the world than let the government waste it. And Charlie has approached us several times about her new position, and we've always sent a nice check. I suddenly realized I wasn't going to like where this was going. We sometimes go to events for these charities, something like the Show the Flag event. Their reasoning is that if we support them publicly, it might affect others. About a month ago, we attended a black-tie dinner for $1,000 a plate, with all proceeds going to charity. Charlie was there, backstage, coordinating everything. She was busy, and we didn't get a chance to talk. I don't think she even realized we were there. The evening was almost over, the tables had been cleared away, and the band had set up for those who wanted to dance. We were just about to leave when I saw her again. Look, she showed me a picture of Charlie in a dress I'd never seen before, and there was a guy next to her, David Duncan, June said, answering an unasked question. He's pretty well off. He goes to these events hoping to make a fortune, and he likes to seduce married women. He's very good, Jack. He even tried his tricks on me once or twice, but then he gave up. I took advantage of the facilities, then went back to Harry, showed him the picture, and we sort of blended into the scenery, which isn't that hard in a crowd of 500 people. The men all dressed in tuxedos, the women in dresses. We got a few more pictures, all in inappropriate poses, some worse than others. That's why we wanted you here. This is not our life, but you are one of our oldest friends, so we decided to tell you. What you do with this information is up to you. We just didn't want you to make the same mistake again. Most couples would never have spoken up, following some obscure belief that the bearers of bad news shouldn't get involved. And then, when things went to hell, they would have pounced on you with sympathy and support. However, these people were true friends, and the slight change in their way of thinking made them speak up now to give me information and time to think about the choice. If there was a way to reconfigure the rest of the world to their way of thinking, it would probably get a lot better. I nodded, sinking into thought. The first betrayal had hurt me badly, but this, after everything we'd been through and all the promises she'd made, had hurt me deeply. Without a doubt, our marriage was over. The emotions hadn't had time to subside yet, so I thanked Harry and June, bowed out, and went to bed. I figured I'd be up half the night, but when my head touched the pillow, I passed out like a light. My eyes opened at 6, and I lay pondering what I should do. The divorce was back on, no doubt about it. I would call the lawyer on Monday and get into action. I didn't know when I'd tell Charlie or the girls about it, but I wasn't going to waste much time. It was time to move on. I'll go my way, she'll go hers. I'll live in the basement until Marissa graduates, and maybe Darcy will come with me when I move out. If Charlie had any common sense, and judging by her actions, there was very little, she would have agreed for the girl's sake, if not more. But then again, she wasn't known for being malleable. Time would tell. We spent the next 2 days watching the girls have fun, although we participated in the activities as well. June decided she wanted horses, so they built a barn with 6 stalls and filled it to capacity. I was a little apprehensive about such huge animals, but the ones they acquired were known for their intelligence and gentle disposition. Harry discovered he was allergic to horses, so June, Shauna, the girls, and I got in the saddle and spent a pleasant morning walking around the neighborhood. June had booked a picnic in the gazebo by their favorite pond, a body of water that might as well have been a small lake. Harry met us there with fishing rods, and I bowed out, fishing for a few hours before heading back. The pond was well stocked, and we both believed in the catch and release principle, so we enjoyed the fight the base gave us, and then, as gently as possible, removed the hook and sent them back to grow up for the next bout. While we were fishing, we talked business. I owed my company to Harry. He and June had insisted I start it, all because of something I had done for June out of the goodness of my heart. June suffered from dry skin, not horribly, but enough to be uncomfortable at times. One random comment got me thinking. I was a civil engineer and specialized in water systems for multi-story buildings, office, industrial, residential, or mixed use. After pondering her problem, I went to Manawi when it was still just a workshop and built what we called the wall. It was one wall of a shower stall with protruding nozzles spaced 4 inches from knee to neck. They pulsed and vibrated, delivering first soap and water, then rinse water, and finally body lotion. This allowed for simultaneous washing, massaging, and lotion application, a versatile means of keeping clean. A side effect was that when a woman was washing her hair, leaning over the vibrating heads hitting strategic spots, it was a very pleasant sensation. The water pressure and temperature, the intensity of the vibration, and the warmth of the lotion were controlled from a small touchscreen computer on the shower door with 6 programmable settings for each member of the family. We didn't mention it in advertising, but there were a couple of articles in women's magazines touting the feeling of cleanliness it provided. Harry let me install a prototype for June, and she liked it so much that she showed it to her friends. After which, women started coming over to shower with it. Eventually, Harry wanted his bathroom back and told them to buy their own. June called me with 7 orders that needed to be delivered as soon as possible. I shocked her by telling her that I didn't have the time or inclination to do more, that it was just a nice gesture for my friends. This led to a long conversation about how much the build had cost me and whether it was secure. Harry immediately lent me his attorney to get the patents and drew up the articles of incorporation for the LLC company. We rented a small industrial building, and I hired 2 guys to help build the ones for June's friends. We installed each wall in the custom bathrooms and got rave reviews. All of their friends were rich, which was good because they weren't cheap. It wasn't a case of keeping up with the Joneses, but rather keeping up with the Gates and the Buffets. Harry and June loaned me $500,000 to get me started, and things took off from there. For the first 2 years, we worked only on word of mouth and writing in magazines. We ended up installing them for many actors, sports figures, singers, and writers. Even 2 former first ladies. 5-star hotels started installing them in luxury suites. One former NFL quarterback was so impressed that he asked me to build a portable unit and put it in his former team's locker room. It stood there for 2 months until the coach removed it to stop fights over who was next. My company built a very large unit that could fit 5 people at once and installed it in every locker room of all the soccer teams in most colleges. Then hockey players, basketball teams, just about every major sport that required muscle. Harry was shrewd enough to make sure the lawyer got international patents, and we sued companies in France and Portugal, eventually getting their assets. And Harry wanted to go global after the divorce, so they figured out how to shield the company from Charlie's influence. That was fine with me. I wasn't angry enough to ruin her life, but angry enough not to reward her. In fact, after talking to the lawyers, I sold the company to Harry, making a nice profit after deducting the debt. I was still working there as a manager for a very good salary. Everything was very transparent. In the divorce, I intended to offer her 60% of our assets in exchange for any other claims such as alimony and child support. I had already calculated how much it would cost with my new salary, and each week I deposited that amount into an escrow account for final division to be used if the kids needed anything. I gave her a house worth $800,000 after the girls turned 18 so they would have a roof over their heads, and agreed to pay all the utility bills until then unless she remarried. My lawyer told me I was being too kind, but when I told him I was thinking of the girls, not Charlie, he shut up. In the end, the deal left her with the house and $2.6 million. It would have been hard for her to refuse. She did say no. I watched on security cameras as she was served as she sat down at the dining room table to open envelopes. The first contained a divorce petition, the second a picture of her and her new lover. I left her a little note. I was ready to forgive you, Charlie, thinking you had learned your lesson and would never stumble again. I guess I was wrong, huh? I'm offering you a very lucrative deal, Charlie, and you'll come out of it smelling like a rose. Just sign the papers and we'll both move on with our lives. No need to fight for custody, we'll share it jointly until they reach adulthood. For that, I will continue to live in the apartment until Marissa turns 18, then Darcy can live wherever she wants. She will be 16 and she can make her own decisions. Read the papers, take them to the attorney of your choice, have them look into everything. Please don't be stupid about it. At the end of the day, Charlie, it will do you no good and cost you money. You may want to keep good luck with any future relationships, just don't use me as a reference. Yes, I sent the same pictures my lawyer had, the ones I gave you, to his wife. Be careful, this is an attachment alienation state and a good attorney can easily take most of your new divorce settlement amount. Let's hope she's not that harsh. I didn't feel the need to sign it. Charlie begged, Charlie pleaded, but Charlie was getting nowhere. Please, Charlie, don't read chapter and verse excuses from the Cheater's Handbook. You wanted another and you got it. I refuse to be your backup plan. It's over, let's not make things harder on the girls. Sign the papers, and in a few more years when the kids are older, I'll be gone and we'll only have to see each other at weddings and baptisms of children. She cried, then she got angry. Her lawyer was pretty slick, and when she saw what I was offering, she advised me to take the money and live happily ever after, explaining that Charlie had come to her because she was one of the best and the best didn't come cheap. I may end up getting more than you and think, is it worth it? Don't lower the quality of your life for the sake of losing Charlie. You cheated twice, and he has documentation for both incidents. This isn't a no-fault state. He can charge you with adultery if you insist, and you'll end up with a lot less, and I'll still have to pay. Agree? She countersued for mental cruelty and claimed I had my own affairs with Shaana and Brenda. Bob's ex-wife Brenda threatened to sue her for slander and defamation of character. Shaana showed up at her door and told her there would be trouble if she didn't stop. It won't really be me. I have a lot of friends left from my old unit, and believe me when I tell you this, we're a bunch of mean. I won't even talk about what the guys can do to you. I see a lot of mugging in your future. You could disappear. I hear they pay a lot of money for pretty white women in third world countries, and one of my guys has connections. He'd be happy to take care of you. Think with your head, not your ass, woman, while you still have a choice. By this time, Charlie had her back against the wall, pressing a hand to her throat. One more thing, when this is over, I'm going after him. He's a good man who wouldn't have held up in my old world, and that's what attracts me. A nice, gentle, strong man is just what I'm looking for. I'm still young enough to breed, and I bet we'll make adorable little chocolate babies. Just be warned, she walked away, leaving Charlie gasping, looking at the spreading stain on his jeans. I didn't hear the story until much later. She stopped her actions the next day. A few weeks later, I was surprised when a woman I didn't know showed up at work and asked for a few minutes of my time, saying it had to do with my divorce. After turning on the video and audio recording, I invited Ed into my office. Sometimes I used it during negotiations. I have found that suppliers and clients sometimes forget some things when it comes to contracts. She was a very attractive woman, perhaps 10 years older, but looking her age. I stood up and shook her hand, walking over to the couch next to the conference table. I wanted to put her at ease. I'm sorry to come unannounced, Mr. Sirs. I'm Barbara Duncan. I believe your wife knows my husband. It was clear it was her husband who was having fun with Charlie. I took her hand. I find myself in the awkward position of having to apologize for my wife's actions, Mrs. Duncan. She shook her head. I'm sure it's not your fault, and I know it's not mine. There were two grown men, both, as I found out, with a history of adultery. They probably seduced each other. I'm here to ask a favor. It seems you have photos and testimony that I could use in my divorce. Would you mind sharing them? Give me the name of your attorney, and I'll send them over. She sighed. I don't have one yet. Yet when things went south, he emptied all the bills, leaving me with just enough for a house and clothes for our son. I wasn't working, and my future looked bleak. Once again, I found myself in the unusual position of having to clean up the mess my wife had made. I dialed the number, asking her to hold on. John, I've got another customer for you, the asshole's wife. Give me a time, and I'll send her over, and John, I'm paying. Why don't you give me a discount? What? That's what I thought, you greedy bastard. Here's her number, text her when you're free. Barbara looked shocked, and I grinned. Don't worry, he's really good at what he does, and I can afford that kind of expense. It's the least I can do. You don't know me, but if there's anything else I can help you with, ask. She sat up, her lips trembling. Please don't cry, she began. I gave her some tissues. Let her cry for a while and thought about it. Brenda was at her place now, and if anyone knew what she was going through, it was her. I called, and she came into the office. Brenda, Barbara, you two have something in common. My wife has slept with both of your husbands. I'll be out for a minute. I gave them 15 minutes. When I walked back in, both women plopped me down on the couch, and then they both kissed me. I didn't expect that to happen. I sat there glowing, a different shade of lipstick on each cheek. I was telling Barb what a nice guy you are and that when the divorce is final, I'm coming for you. Don't look so shocked, you know you're my hero. Now focus, Barb needs a job until her divorce is finalized. Sounds like she's perfect for that new position you were talking about. She has a degree in international business relations, speaks French, Italian, and German. Looks like I found your new international marketing director. You can thank me with a big bonus in my next check. And remember, I'm your chief accountant, so I know how much you can pay her. Don't make me adjust it. Charlie literally flew into a rage. What the hell is wrong with you? Is this some kind of revenge, treating me like, while you give these all the support you can? Dude, you're talking about pissing me off. I've reached my absolute limit in dealing with her, Charlie. You need to shut up. You need to shut up right now. Are you listening? Because if you don't, the offer will be withdrawn, and I'll make you fight for every bone in your body. You think I imagined when I married you that I'd spend my time supporting the women whose lives you ruined? No, you didn't. This is on you, Charlie, and I'm done. Don't talk to me again, and if you do, you can talk to my lawyer. Don't worry about the girls, they'll tell me if they need anything. Are you listening to what I'm saying? She began to cry again. But, honey, I'm sure, I spoke directly above her. I'll tell you what you can be sure of. You can be sure that the divorce will go through. You can be sure that before the ink on the paper dries, I'll already be looking for someone else. Girls need a positive role model, so go screw up another marriage or 2 or 3. When you're done ruining the life they thought they had, send the women to me, and I'll do my best to put them back together. Maybe they can form a club or something. I'm sure they'll let me be an honorary member. Goodbye, Charlie, and I mean that literally. I guess my rage startled her because she backed into a corner, eyes wide, and didn't make a sound. I didn't even close the door when I left. The girls hated it. I tried to shield them, but somehow they found out. They didn't see their mother for 3 weeks until I talked them into a weekend away. She's still your mother. She hasn't betrayed you, and she still loves you. I'm sure not seeing you is killing her. I know it's going to be hard, and if you don't want to stay after a while, come back. Do it for the family, I said. Darcy, her 11-year-old eyes looking ancient, sighed. "We'll go, but you're wrong, Papa," she said. "She betrayed us just as she betrayed you and robbed us of a normal family. She'll never be the same. We did things with you, without her, but we'll never do them together, never share common memories again. Love you, Daddy." She hugged me tightly and walked the longest 26 steps of her young life. Damn it, when did kids get so smart and so world-weary? I may have to see a therapist for them and for all of us. It took 11 months and cost her about $600,000 before she gave up. She asked me to give her an hour to socialize before signing the papers, so I called her. What can you say that will make a difference? If you're sorry, I accept your apology. Otherwise, sign the papers. I'm not going to go through another drama. Darcy was now 12 and a half and had grown into a rare beauty. Marissa, now almost 15, looked like a 20-year-old model. People still came to pool and man cave parties, and when the boys showed up, the mothers circled their nest like hawks. The chicks wouldn't go to waste with them. Charlie never offered to come. I was still paying all the bills for the house, and that would be it until Junior left for college. I changed the petition a little. The house, instead of going to Charlie as per the first divorce proposal, would be sold, and the proceeds divided equally. Charlie would still get enough to live comfortably if he was careful with the money. Before the ink was even dry on my divorce papers, Brenda, true to her word, came after me. I stopped her as gently as I could. "I'd love to, Brenda, but you work for me, and if we don't work out, it could be very, very awkward. I'll quit. You'll receive my resignation letter via email in about 5 seconds," she threatened. I had to laugh. "You love your job, and while you're really good, no one will pay you as much as I do. I could marry a bank." "You could, but it would take a long time if it happens at all." "Please, stop," I said. I knew she was flying to France the next morning. "Get a hold of yourself, Barb. Maybe you'll find a Frenchman and fall in love. Either way, there's a Pierre, Jean-Claude out there pining for you and looking for you." Brenda found the guy, another accountant, and they're still tallying up the numbers, how many minutes he can last, how many orgasms he could give her in one session. So far, it's all adding up. Barbara took my proposal literally, found a Frenchman, and moved to N to head up the company's European division. I muddled through for about 9 months. I dated a few women I had met through friends and various social events, found out that my equipment was still working, but other than physical pleasure, nothing much was happening. Harry and Jane looked after me as best they could. I came over to the girls' house a few times, and we had a good time. Shaana left them, saying that although she loved them and Star, it was time to move on. I was a little disappointed, and they seemed 13 months after the divorce. Charlie got engaged to a guy she met through her volunteer work, the charity she worked for after her affair and divorce came to light. I met him at the mailbox several times, and he seemed like a perfectly decent man. The best part was that he was single when they met, so she didn't ruin the marriage. I wondered how truthful she was about her past, but that was none of my business. The girls liked him, he had a sense of humor, and he didn't try to be a father figure. Sometimes he took them to the movies or to a restaurant while their mother worked. Strangely, I didn't feel threatened and was glad they were adjusting. One day, they came home sad, and over the course of the evening, it all came to light. Josh was out of their lives. He had broken off the engagement. I asked if they knew why. "Really, Dad?" "It's Mom." "What do you think happened?" I'd gotten used to it enough that I didn't shake with disgust when confronted by Charlie. I could talk to her politely but didn't encourage her. I'd long ago removed all the surveillance equipment because it was no longer my business, but admittedly, I was tempted to turn it back on when Josh showed up. Well, is she still making the same faces and noises she'd made during our intimacy? Had she started trying harder with him? Thankfully, I didn't give in to temptation. 17 months after the divorce, I came home and saw an old friend sitting on my couch. Shaana was in town and had stopped by to see the girls. Marissa was 16. I bought her a milestone car and she was telling her about it. I didn't expect her to choose a four-wheel drive Jeep, but it was much safer than most of the cars the teenage girls wanted, so I agreed. She and Darcy were very popular at school, and they always had friends underfoot, and this way, their opponents could travel together. I thought later that her choice had a lot to do with Shaana. When she was younger, Shaana drove a car very similar to the one she had chosen. Darcy jumped up to me. "Daddy, guess what? Shaana wants to take us camping. Star is going to come with us. Can we go?" It was unexpected. Darcy was just a girl, and I couldn't imagine her sleeping on the ground or getting dirty. Shaana sat back and grinned. I grinned back. "I haven't seen you in almost 2 years, and this is how you came back? Kidnap my kids and leave me abandoned?" Her grin grew even wider. "You can come over. In fact, I'll probably need some help." Darcy has allowed 2 girlfriends, Marissa and Star, managing 9 girls between the ages of the 10th and the 16th of maybe beyond me. I doubt there is anything you can't handle. You organize them like a military camp. I don't think you'll have any trouble. Come with us, Daddy. You'll need someone to carry things and cook meals. You don't expect us to do that, do you? I mean, we'll be on vacation. My oldest daughter grinned as she finished. I went off to order pizza while they sat over Darcy's laptop looking at expensive camping gear. I had a feeling it was going to cost me a tidy sum. Shaana stopped by every 2 or 3 days right up until the trip to check on what they had bought and if they needed to take it with them. She had them dismantle and put up 3 tents until they learned to do it blindfolded. Star was often with her, already showing that she had inherited her parents' brains and her mother's looks. I hadn't spoken to Charlie in months. She'd had a few men over, and she always sent the girls to my place on the nights she had dates. I couldn't escape the thought that she wasn't much of a role model right now, but the girls were pretty cool about it. One day she called and wanted to talk to me about the girls. My alarm system went off. This couldn't have been good news. I met her at the front door. She went straight to what was on her mind. "Stop turning my girls against me. I'm sick to death of hearing about Shaana. She can do this, she can do that, she blah, blah, blah." It took me a second to find my voice and a little more to calm down enough to sound reasonable. At first, I laughed, and this is coming from a woman who's had a whole parade of lovers in the last few months. You think girls are stupid enough to think you've been playing backgammon all night? Damn, what a hypocrite you are, Charlie. But you know what? I tried to stay out of your business, Charlie, so stay out of mine. You look like the expression "rode hard and got wet" comes to mind. Get your ass back to the gym, get your hair done, take care of yourself, at least for the girls. Anything else on your mind? Well then, have a brilliant day and leave me alone. I walked away from her, shocked, and what made it even more cake decorating was that just then Shaana pulled up. There was clapping from the girls who jumped outside when they saw Shaana pull up. It was amusing to watch Miss Super Control blush. "Why did you do that?" I smiled, because I've always wanted to, and believe me, it surpassed all my fantasies about you. Honestly, I wanted to do it for the shock of some people, and I'd really like to try it again to make sure that the feeling I had wasn't just a one-time thing. They went out, bringing salads, and I put their steaks and baked potatoes on plates. After dinner, they hurried back into the house, leaving me to deal with the mess. I checked and rechecked everything on the list Shaana had given me. How could something that took so long to coordinate be fun? Shaana put Star and her 2 friends in her four-wheeler, Marissa put her 2 friends in hers, and Darcy and her buddies in hers. It was pretty crowded. Me? I was driving one of the support trucks with the back piled high with gear, a support vehicle according to Shaana. It took 4 hours to get there, but it was worth it. We were completely isolated. It took 30 minutes to get to the bathhouse. If they had to go sooner, they would have to imitate a bear. Shaana took command, handing out orders, and 4 tents grew out of the ground. I was instructed to put the food into bear-proof containers, which did not make me feel warm and fuzzy. The coolers would be locked in the cars overnight, and Shaana had bear repellent that she sprayed in large doses around the tent and cars. Next, I was to assemble the charcoal grill we had brought with us. By lunchtime, everything was ready to go. Lunch consisted of cold appetizers and sodas. The girls giggled and looked out over the lake while they put on their bathing suits. I drove back to the marina, got the keys to the biggest pontoon boat they had, and went through an hour-long briefing. It was huge and designed for 18 adults, so I figured 9 girls and 2 adults wouldn't tax it. The next morning, we had to make breakfast. I was pretty good with the grill, but Shaana took over breakfast, delegating everything to the older girls. Soon, the air was filled with the sounds of sausages roasting, and I was chopping peppers, onions, and ham for an omelet. Shaana brought out the biggest cast-iron skillet I'd ever seen, heated the oil, and made the best pancakes I'd ever tasted with buckwheat flour and fresh blueberries. We got full, and then Shaana got everyone to help clean up, washing dishes, picking up trash, and putting away utensils and food until it looked like we'd never been there. Shaana got a couple of fishing rods and went down to the lake with each girl in tow and then taught each one how to fish. There were lots of small bream in the cove, so everyone caught something different. We took endless pictures, and the girls never failed to let me know that we would be visiting places like Academy or Dick's very soon. We lazed around until almost lunchtime and then drove back to the marina. Shaana made them wear sneakers and cover up their swimsuits with shorts and t-shirts. They figured it was because we took them to a restaurant on the marina for lunch. Oddly enough, they served Italian food there, and plates of spaghetti, ravioli, huge meatballs, and other assorted dishes were shared. Little girls have a knack for getting their hands full. We took them for a walk down to the piers to admire the boats. There was much squealing when they realized the big boat was meant for them, and they clattered aboard, groaning when Shaana made them put on life jackets. "We have a student driver," she said, grinning. "Best not to take any chances." We rocked slowly until everyone was comfortable. The girls only laughed. "Relax, sweetheart. I was a hormonal teenager once, and so were you, but much later than I was. They're just having fun. But if they get close again, they're all yours." She thought for a second and went on deck. I heard it echo across the lake, and she came back grinning and adjusting her top. I didn't say a word. We anchored in the cove, and I discovered the best thing on the boat, a sliding board to dive off the side of the boat into the water and a little pump that fed water to the board to make it easier. Soon, they were coming off the board 2 at a time, screaming as they flew up into the air. One little girl kept to herself, and it turned out that she couldn't swim. The others were empathetic enough to suggest they stop, a rather adult thing to do for such small children. But Shaana saved the day. She took the girl to the back of the boat, and she returned a few minutes later wearing a life jacket. Shaana climbed up the ladder with her, and they went down together. I don't know who screamed more, Shaana or Vicky. The cove was pretty shallow with a nice little beach, and we docked at the shore. When they got tired of tying them up, we chopped wood and got the cooler out. Soon they were roasting sausages and marshmallows while sipping sodas. Shaana kept Vicky at bay, talking quietly to her, and after a few minutes, I looked up when Vicky's dog swam past me. Later, we were sitting on the boat with our legs hanging off the side by side when I walked over and gently kissed her cheek. Her smile lit up the twilight. "For helping Vicky? You're going to be a supermom." Tears came to her eyes, and she jumped out of the boat and swam into the bay. Looking out over the canal when she finally arrived, I helped her untangle the girls, cleaned up after them, made sure the fire was put out, and we slowly swam back to the dock. "Did I do something to offend you? If so, you know I didn't mean it, and I apologized." She stroked my cheek, smiling a gentle smile. "You didn't say anything wrong, sweetie. You just gave me a compliment that no one has ever given me before. I just didn't know how to take it." She leaned against me with her whole body, holding my hand. I couldn't remember the last time I'd been so pleased. We had a light dinner that the girls had prepared, insisting that Shaana and I relax, so we sat in camp chairs and snuggled. Shaana told me about her new job. She had co-owned a security firm with 3 of her fellow veterans and seemed to be succeeding, although she didn't enjoy the irregular hours and travel as much as she thought she would. I told her about selling the company, much to her surprise. It doesn't bother me. It all started out as me just trying to help a friend, and Harry and June more or less forcefully dragged me into it. They're good loyal friends, but I didn't really like it, and money didn't mean that much to me. I just wanted to have enough money to provide a good life for my family, and later for my girls. She sighed and took my hand. I know you don't show it, but Charlie hurt you more than you can show. I was married once myself. I loved the guy and considered him my life partner until I came back from a business trip and found out he was divorcing me for what I thought was a good friend. She was 6 months pregnant. At least he had the decency to wait until I got home, but it still hurt. I was a little shocked. She had never mentioned this before, and it made me sad. Charlie had taught me a lot about pain management, so I could understand. We lay in the chairs until dinner was served. I was really glad my girls had learned to use the grill because most of the others were clueless. Shaana and I did the dishes, and the girls sat around the fire singing along to one of Marissa's friends on the guitar. It sounded good, sitting in the dark with no one around to appreciate your abilities. We tried to wear down the pontoon, and the girls were adamant that we should get one of our own as gifts for both birthdays combined. I did not resist the suggestion in the slightest. I lay there in the tent in the middle of the desert and realized that I was the happiest I had been in a very, very long time and fell asleep with a smile. The girls picked us up, and we went out to face the world after everything was packed up. We looked around to make sure we had left the campground better than we found it and left, taking with us memories that will last a lifetime. I'm sure everything had been planned. Marissa got behind the wheel of Shaana's SUV, another girl got behind the wheel of hers, and Shaana came with me. We drove, holding hands, not feeling the need to talk. An hour away from home, Shaana finally spoke. I've been thinking about this for years, to tell you the truth. We could go home, date, dance around how we feel about each other, but I'll cut to the chase and give you some options. You're going to love me, you will marry me, you'll give me a few more children to love besides Star and our girls, and it's a prerequisite that you spend the rest of your life with me. If you object to any of this, I'll get in the car when we get back, drive away, and you'll never see me again. Oh, and by the way, I love you. How do you feel about that? Well, let me think about it. Okay, I've thought about it. Tomorrow, we'll go to the jewelry store and find you a ring, and then we, or rather you, will go house hunting. I refuse to start married life in my ex's basement, so the sooner you find our house, the sooner we can get it set up. You might want to bring the girls in for counseling when you've made up your mind. Is that okay? Oh, and to make it official, Shaana Hunter, will you marry me? She sat like that for a few seconds until the tears started. Then the tears were replaced with a smug look. She texted someone and asked me to stop right then and there. I thought the girl driving Marissa's Jeep was about to crash. She pulled over so fast. Shaana jumped out of the truck, rushed around, and pulled me out before I could get out myself. Marissa appeared to still be holding her phone, and I looked at the message. Operation was a success. Great job, troops. I looked at her, and she grinned, blushing. Oops, you weren't supposed to see that, she said, hugging me again. I sighed as I closed my computer and thought about it. Today was my 60th birthday. It was my last day of work. I was retiring. I had made a lot of money, and it was time. Darcy turned out to be a cog in math and business, so she started working for Harry when she got her MBA. 3 years ago, she moved to him to learn the business from the ground up before taking over as global CEO. Marissa followed in my footsteps by getting an engineering degree and specializing in bridge construction, a career that has taken her around the world. She found a life partner, and they adopted 2 little girls, my only grandchildren to date. Darcy was still married to her work, although she seemed to have become very close to an engineer she met through her sister. My musings were interrupted when my wife walked in with our twin daughters in her arms. They were graduating high school soon and had chosen different colleges, wanting to live apart for a change. Shaana was right, as always, when she told Charlie that we would have beautiful chocolate children. Shaana retired on our wedding day and took over running her company, then sold her share to the others when she found out she was pregnant. Our company was hardly their only client. Harry's empire became huge, and more than once, it happened that information revealed to them changed business decisions significantly. She helped me gather the photos on the table, stopping at one of our wedding photos, the one of her with her fiancée June as matron of honor and 9 bridesmaids, 3 16-year-olds, 3 13-year-olds, and 3 10-year-olds, all in floor-length dresses, elegant and beautiful, wearing dresses showing off combat boots, holding a sign, Operation Successful. We were returning to our home on the lake, the same lake where we had vacationed all these years. There were 2 huge pontoons and a speedboat tied to the dock, and all the guys from that trip were frequent visitors, bringing their families and talking about Operation Lake, as they called it. I doubted we'd get much privacy, but that was the order of the day. What happened to Charlie? Not that I was particularly invested, except for how it might impact my children, but the house ended up in her possession. To say she was displeased would be an understatement, but she soon realized her complaints fell on deaf ears and gradually ceased airing them. What truly irked her was when she noticed a house for sale just a block away from us, and Shaana decided that would be the ideal place for us to start our family. $500,000 later, we owned a house that garnered attention in magazines. Complete with a full-sized in-ground pool and hot tub, we made good use of it until it started showing signs of wear within the first year. Custody arrangements were never an issue since the girls could easily walk between our houses, though they tended to prefer staying with us, especially after their sisters were born. By then, they were nearly grown. Charlie remarried twice. The first marriage ended after 2 years when, unsurprisingly, infidelity came to light. Fortunately, she had the foresight to secure a prenup, safeguarding her interests. For amusement, Brenda and Barb managed to locate the ex-wife and offered her a job. I've heard they've opened up the second house, using the basement as a playroom, so perhaps she finally got what she desired all those years ago. We encounter her occasionally, but she remains reserved, evidently still holding on to resentment. Time hasn't been as kind to her as it could have been, and age is catching up. I suppose old habits die hard. She still prefers the mall over the gym. Dad, come on. If we leave now, we can still spend an hour or 2 swimming at the lake, I grinned, picking up my belongings and heading out with my family to embark on the most fulfilling journey of my life. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and catch the next video.